Welcome back, everyone. Thank you. So, a few weeks ago, we had the privilege to watch the beautiful video under the invitation of Signet and the Beers for Jared Jewelers about diamonds. It was a movie directed by, I don't know if you've heard of him, or if you've seen the movie La Marche de l'Empereur. It's the French filmmaker called Luc Jacquet who made this movie. It's absolutely magnificent. And we wanted to share it with you today. Of course, not the 22 minutes film, but the trailer of it. And please look at it. It's absolutely beautiful. And we have the pleasure to share with you the trailer with the authorization of Signet. And thank you very much to Colin and to Claudia for letting us sharing this content with you today.
Stones of light, born in the cauldrons of the world, made of the rarest, most stable matter in the universe. Sometimes in the depths of the night, I get the impression that the stones are telling me their story. What light could have bathed those lifeless times, crossing millions of years undamaged, unchanged? All the turns of fate that gave it this unique and rare shape. I bear in mind that diamonds have brought prosperity to my country. Stones of light, the signature of my art and its responsibility. I will be the first in 1 billion years to change its nature. On whose finger will it write the rest of its story? Wherever it is, whenever the light shines through it, it will sparkle with the magic forever.
And now I call on stage Edward Johnson for the session on a focus on the Africa jewelry industry and marketplace.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming. I would like to start today's session by inviting Gaetano onto the stage. But there's a reason for this. Gaetano, can you please join us? Absolutely. Thank you. So can we remember back during COVID? CIBJO took a very brave step to go online and conduct a series of webinars for the industry all around the world. Gaetano, thank you so much for your support for that, the idea. The work was done by Steve Benson. Thank you, Steve. I had a small part to play in it as well. But one of the things that came out of that, and one of the things that came out of COVID from my experience, was much more inclusion was needed within our jewelry industry. And one of the aspects that you really instigated here is to welcome our colleagues in the African jewelry industry, from the mine through to retail, into CIBJO. And you may remember, some of you were there at Vicenza Oro in September 2020, when we had a webinar where we invited some colleagues from Nigeria, from Botswana, from Kenya, from Zambia, and we talked about the importance of Africa as a source for the gems and precious metals that we use. You remember? What we wanted to do today is to move the conversation on from what we've been talking about for 5 or 6 years already, the value that Africa can bring to the global supply chain. What we want to focus on today, and I've got a wonderful panel that I'm going to introduce in a minute, is Africa as a market for fine jewelry. It's not something many of us have maybe considered. We often think of Africa in a negative light. I think we can all agree. But what we want to see is the positive, the dynamism, the energy, the youth in Africa who crave symbolism and meaning. As we all do, that's why jewelry exists. So that's what we wanted to talk about today, but I want to commend you and your leadership for really welcoming more African groups, African jewelers, and African associations into CIBJO. And maybe I can just ask you, why is that important?
Thank you very much for that. But let me answer with the opportunity I have after several other meetings. Having met, thanks to my good friend Joran Devash in New York when there was the World Federation of Diamond Bourses meeting, where to honor the World Federation of Diamond Bourses, and my dear brother here, making an incredible trip. And I was in New York just 1.5 days because of him, and then I flew back to Italy. The president of Botswana went on stage and started obviously talking about Botswana, the beautiful part of the South African area within the entire continent, talking about the beauty of Africa, about the spirit of Africa, and many other elements which we all know. He was very proud as a native from Botswana, very proud to be the president, and very proud to represent Botswana, its people, and its products. And he said, I come from the southern part of Africa, and I am proud of it, and he was continuing. Then was my turn to go on stage, and as quite usual, I spoke by heart, and addressing directly to him, I said, Mr. President, you are coming from the southern part of Africa, as you said. And as I was mentioning previously, I said, I come from Sicily, which is, as you know, if you have the map in front of you, in between the northern part of Africa and the rest of Europe. They want to make a bridge. I always said no need, because the beauty and the flower, the sense of the sea when you cross the strait. I was just saying the channel, looking at you. No, but that is, the channel is a little bit norther. That is the Strait of Messina. And I said, you know, you are coming from the southern part of Africa. I'm coming from the northern part of Africa. And I was very serious when I say that, as I am serious now, because, I mean, in several parts, when I introduce myself that I come from Sicily, immediately they connect to mafia. Which is, as you know, an NGO, a humanitarian organization that helps, is exactly like that, for the benefit of several people. But I mentioned that because, you know, it is important to understand, as I understood since ever, when I was at school with the lesson of geography, and there was this magnificent continent that I have had the privilege to visit in several countries, not all, but several. And I was connecting, let's say, let me use this terrible word, which is discrimination, from being a Sicilian and be put together, mixed to what is, let's say, not exactly formal or conventional, to what normally the people, with all the due respect, I'm saying in a positive way, the people think from Africa. But ladies and gentlemen, Africa is a continent in this ground, in this earth, in this world. They, as a continent, are taking care of the richness of this world, diamond, gold, agriculture, copper, oil, and I may continue. And they are maybe, or without maybe, the most important part of our world economy. And they are people like us. And we are like them, meaning that we breathe the same air, we drink the same water, and we eat the same food, maybe cooked in a different way, but still is there. So I don't see any difference between me and whoever African coming to me. When the African are coming to me, not only they are most welcome, but they have to feel, and I do my best to let them feel home. And you are here, thank you very much. And when we discussed about this, I immediately welcome, and we did whatever effort, and we hope to do many more, much more in the future to bring many other brothers and sisters from Africa into our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Gaetano. Can I ask my friends to join us on stage here? So the idea to have this conversation, which is much more about Africa as a market, as opposed to Africa as a source, came from this gentleman walking past you all here, another African, Steve Benson. So thank you, Steve, for this idea, all right? I was struck when we started to talk about this that, firstly, Africa is a continent, not a country. Let's always remember that. So when I was thinking how we would frame this conversation, I thought, so which countries are the most important for jewelry sales? And I came, and rightly or wrongly, I came to Zambia, Nigeria, and South Africa. There are many other economies that are growing fast in Africa. And let me acknowledge Malefi Letsiki, who's joining us on Zoom from Johannesburg. Good morning, or good afternoon, actually, now, Malefi. So I came to these three countries as important markets for jewelry sales, all right? So let's, in a way, try to stop talking about Africa and try to talk about the individual countries, because they're very distinct and different, okay? But one of the things that I learned as I was researching this is in the year 2030, 1 in 10 people born in this world will be Nigerian. It's got one of the fastest growing populations in the world. Africa has the youngest population in the world. That is a tremendous opportunity for Africa and for the rest of the world to trade with Africa. A tremendous spirit of new emerging consumers. That's why we want this session to be about the positive energy that Africa brings, the positive colors. Look at the, I feel so boring here. I tried to bring some color, but I can't compete. Yeah. But we really wanted to have that discussion about how Africa is a potential new marketplace, so that people in the West who've been making jewelry for generations can look at it and support those who are facing challenges in the creation of fine jewelry and satisfying the consumers that they want to look after. So if you just give me a minute while my eyes work. So let me just briefly introduce you to the panel, and I'm so pleased that you could all be here with us. Malefi, it's great that you could join us as well. Thank you. So we have directly from my left here, Rashmi Sharma. Rashmi is a gemologist, a jewelry designer, and an entrepreneur with over 30 years of experience building Jewel of Africa, a very strong jewelry retail brand in Zambia. I spend a lot of time in Zambia, so I'm very familiar with at least one of their stores at the airport when I pass through. And Jewel of Africa is a vertically integrated gem and jewelry company based in Lusaka, and we'll hear more about that in a minute. Then also Jamoke. Jamoke is the creative mind. I think we can see the creativity already in Jamoke's outfit today, but Jamoke is the creative mind behind an emerging African luxury brand, which is spotlighting African craftsmanship, heritage, and ethical goldsmithing. Thank you for being here. And next we have my good friend and neighbor in North London, Longo. The Jewellery and Gemstone Association of Africa is the first, hopefully of many, different African-based or African diaspora-based associations that choose to join CIBJO. So welcome, Longo. Longo founded JEGA, if I pronounce it right. Are we going with JEGA nowadays? Right? Founded JEGA, and it kind of came out of COVID as well, really. It was a coalition of people who were talking online about the need to represent Africa more on the global gem and jewelry stage. And you founded that, and you run that, along with many different people that come into your orbit. So welcome, Longo. And last on stage is Christophe Amank, who has a very famous wife, but also in his own right is an industry consultant based in Geneva that when I was researching was writing some wonderful things on LinkedIn. I encourage you to look for Christophe on LinkedIn and hear some of his very eloquent and very well-argued discussion points and papers on the history of the African jewelry continent as a destination. And he focuses primarily at the moment on Nigeria, representing Swiss luxury watch brand. So I think we've got a really interesting combination here of people representing European and other brands wanting to sell into Africa. Then we've also got Africans who are selling to Africans, all right? They might be completely two different markets. Let's explore the topic and see where we go with this. Thank you. So maybe starting with that viewpoint that there is a growing population in Africa. There's a rising middle class. Look at the GDPs of African countries. Go on the Economist site. You will see that they are rising faster than many other countries around the world. Okay, admittedly, off a lower base. But go to Lagos today. You will see the energy. You will see the wealth. And you will see the desire for adornment. That's what jewelry is, right? So when we start from that perspective, I'd really like to explore with all of you what you really see as being the local demand currently for jewelry in your markets. And because, Melefi, you're online, I'm going to ask you to start, so we bring you into the conversation early doors, all right? So Melefi Melefi, excuse me, if I can say so, is the first black site holder that De Beers appointed. So I think that is a very significant step. All right, second generation Diamantaire, and he's currently also serving as the president of the Diamond Dealers Club of South Africa. Melefi, welcome.
Thank you, Ed.
So considering your experience from South Africa, do you believe that there's an African market or a South African market for fine diamond jewelry in terms of demand and affordability? And can you give us some details on how you define the market?
Thank you, Ed, and thank you for that question. Good afternoon, everybody. Trust that everybody is well. Well, to answer you, Ed, definitely there is a market, and it is a growing market that we're seeing in Africa. You know, growing up in Africa, for a lot of people, we can agree to say, you know, jewelry was not, or diamonds in this marketing, it was not something that you would normally see around dinner tables and so forth. However, due to the fact that, you know, today we live in what we call a global village, where through social media, everything has become so instant. And one of the things that African people have always sort of looked out to what's happening in the Western world. And that, you know, has brought in this desire, you know, to have what a lot of people would see outside their norm to bring into themselves. So jewelry, it's definitely, fine jewelry, something that is growing a lot. think for a long time, a lot of Africans deemed jewelry to be something that is not accessible, very expensive for the elite, because that's how it was, presented back in the days. But over the years, as people got to understand the value of investing in jewelry, we started seeing more and more young people investing in jewelry. I can see it a lot with my generation, a lot of guys that you went to varsity or high school with having interest to buy more and more jewelry. So it is a growing market due to more disposable income, due to economies growing, and due to more and more exposure of what the rest of the world is being exposed to.
Do you think there's some way you can define demand? What price points, what sizes, what types of jewelry, if we can go there a bit?
Look, one thing that I think that I see a lot in terms of demand from an African point of view, to diamond jewelry, anything between your, I would say, half a carat to your 2 carat in terms of stone size, it's what's selling quite a lot more, something that is still a bit more affordable, where people are willing to spend in dollar terms in the region of about $4,000 or $5,000 and above, for your engagement rings and for wedding rings. And one thing to note is the fact that, you will find that a lot of jewelry that's being bought, it's mainly your rings from a weddings and point of view, whereas only now it's starting to grow, where you're starting to see people looking for other items such as your necklaces or your earrings and so forth. But for a long time, it was the main focus was just only on rings for engagements and weddings. But that is also changing a lot, where you're also seeing a lot of women actually buying jewelry for themselves. So there's a lot of self-buy that you're seeing happening as well in that market. So yes, sizes-wise, it's not your biggest sizes. You'll get few customers that will come in for your big sizes, but you're mostly looking at anything around half a carat to like 2 carats in terms of sizing. Average color clarity. So you're looking at anything between G to your like eye colors, VVS, and to like SI goods. Those are goods that I see mainly moving in the local market.
Great, thank you so much. So let's turn to Nigeria as a market and thinking about firstly the type of demand. And Christophe, you're working to support European brands in Nigeria. How would you define the current market for luxury there?
Firstly, what I would like to express is Africa is not a market. There is several markets in Africa, and each region, each countries they have their own heritage, their own values, their own way of thinking. So the continent is very diverse, and the country like Nigeria is very diverse. I don't remember how many tribes, etc., and language in the country. But the country is 240 million people. 70% of the population are less than 30 years old. By the end of the century, there will be 500 million people. Okay, and in terms of luxury market, we are talking about between 8,000 and 10,000 high net worth individual possessing more than $1 million in assets in Nigeria. And this number will increase in the next decade by 65%. So the market is there. But actually the market is young, vibrant, very energetic, creative. It's concentrated in the main urban cities like Lagos, Abuja. We don't know exactly how many people in Lagos, but it's increasing every day. And also it's supported by young generation, millennial, Gen Z. They are very digital active. They are seeing what's happening internationally. And also the market is modelized by all the diaspora living abroad in New York, in London, in Canada. and they are traveling a lot, and they are coming back to the country, and they are bringing lifestyle and people they want to copy. And also, it's supported by a very vibrant industry in terms of entertainment, media, cinema. We don't know, but Nollywood, the Hollywood in Nigeria, is very famous and very attractive for the surrounding countries. So yes, there is a market, of course.
and of course, many people. I travel a lot to Zambia and Mozambique, and I just hear Nigerian music blaring out of every street radio. It's a cultural heartbeat for Africa sometimes.
But just to explain what is the market in terms of luxury market, Lagos is the city in the world who are selling the most number of bottles of high-level champagne from France in the world, not in Africa or in the country, but in the world.
I think there's a relationship between champagne sales and diamond sales, right? So let's be clear that if there's that many champagne being sold, there's a market for diamonds there. So Jumoke, I'm so pleased that you could join us. And your brand, we've been following it, or Longo's directed me to follow your brand online, and we had a lovely chat last night. But can you follow with from your perspective, your definition of the market and the consumer that you're looking at with your brand?
Okay. So just to give a bit history about luxury in Nigeria, we are a very vibrant set of people, and we are lovers of jewelry. So at a certain age, you should get a piece of jewelry from your mom. So it is like you're officially now becoming a woman. You need to have a set of gold earrings or diamond earrings. But the narrative is changing. So the set of jewelry that our mothers wore, we want something different now. We want something updated. Because the history of Nigeria was our parents went to Italy and got jewelry and got back home, and they distributed it. But there's a new audience in Nigeria, a growing audience that has got more liquid than their parents. And it's growing because we're thinking we have new industries popping up. You've mentioned music, we have fashion, we have tech, and this generation, the young, they've got money, not as much responsibilities, and they want to do more. So with my experience with Jumoke Lagos, the reception has been great because it's good to see a brand that is fine jewelry brand and is a Nigerian brand. So you see a piece of, a Jumoke Lagos collection and go like, oh, is this from Europe? And I'm always very proud to say it's Nigerian. This is something that's been made for us because there's a demand for it. What our parents wore, we like them, but not enough to want to own them. So what happens is people get jewelry from their mom, they pawn it, and they come buy something younger and fresher. And the population is exploding. So in terms of pricing, if it's good enough, a Nigerian will pay for it if they have the money. So it is quite difficult to say this is the cap for a Nigerian. I'm sure you can testify to that. If it's good, we like it, we'll buy it. And something that was said over and over again during this conversations is jewelry is emotional. It's an emotional buy. And we are very emotional people. We are very expressive as well. So we express, thanks, gratitude, we'll give you a gift. Jewelry, if you're a woman. You're leaving university, you've done so well. You get a piece of jewelry. And we're constantly celebrating. So jewelry is something that we constantly buy as people. So the market is growing, and it's an exciting time to be Nigerian because the young minds are looking into Nigerian problems and solving it. So we have a service economy as well. And because we are servicing our problems, we're trying to fix them ourselves. So every time there's a solution, that means there's money to be made. And because there's money to be made, there's money to be spent.
I love that optimism. It's an exciting time to be Nigerian, Reframing this narrative about Africa. I turn to another country, thank you. Zambia, where you live. I spend a lot of time. I'm privileged to be there. You've been building a jewelry brand, Jewel of Africa, for 30 years. You have a short video, which hopefully we can tee up to enable you to introduce yourself and your business with your brother that you've been building up for 30 years. So how do you see, from your perspective, Rashmi, the mind to you model that you've been building, and how do you see that in terms of demand in Zambia for jewelry?
Thank you, Ed. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for having us at CIBJO. Gaetano, nice to meet you. I've heard so much about you. We had sent one of my jewelers over here for the competition in March.
To Gem Genève, Vanessa Piri.
Yes, the Vanessa Piri, yes. Thanks to Longo. The video behind me, well, in front of me as well, is just showcasing some of the value addition that Jewel of Africa has been doing over the years. Well, it started off with my father's vision. Worked in India with the oil and gas company, came to Tanzania in 1974, to Zambia in 1979, realized the potential of the country. At the end of this video, there'll be a map of Zambia showcasing everything that it has discovered so far. Thus far, and we keep on discovering more. So the model became, let's advocate Zambian. Right, Zambians are very new to jewelry, to gemstones. It's not part of the culture. So let's teach them about what's Zambian, let's inculcate it into their curriculum. And so I've been working with the Ministry of Education, rewriting the curriculum with a blank map of the country, plot where the gems come from, where the gold, the copper, the cobalt, the manganese, where all the minerals, there we go, the Zambian jewels. And then going into secondary education will be the science, the crystallography. As I'm a gemologist, I'm an FGA, GIA, I've spoken with the Guild and have several other places, but it is a very, very new market, right? And we are trying, like I said earlier, to inculcate it into Zambian mindset, to advocate local, wear local, and start a beading project because we have so many minerals out there. We have a foundation that's trying to get the Zambians involved in beading and make it a hub for colored stone. And not just for colored stone and emeralds, but we have pegmatite. It may be very deep. All the diamond people sitting in the front row over here may be interested. Coming across the border from Angola, from DRC, hey, there are some pegmatites very deep after 150 meters of sand. But yes, we haven't discovered enough. I think we're still, Zambians are looking for lithium, and we find spodumene. This was a recent find. Looking for manganese, and there's sugilite, turquoise, feldspar, spessartite, some of the finest fireball. I've coined it the Zambian sunset, because we also have the most beautiful sunsets and wildlife. All right, so I should become the Minister of Tourism.
But
even with Nigeria, Nigerians are coming through to Zambia asking me to produce, a Jewel of Africa to produce jewelry that will suit the Nigerian market. So for example, the Fitbit, it's not blingy enough for them. All right, it's boring, it's fading. And I said, well, bling it up. And I said, well, give me a budget. So there's a range. You want diamonds, you want emeralds, you want gold, and we'll do that for you.
Diamond Fitbit.
That's right.
Oh, hey, there we go. Yeah.
Thank you.
Natural only, I'm assuming.
Absolutely. We only advocate real. Sorry, we can't take... for those of you selling synthetic, there was a very, very small demand for the lab-grown diamond, but it quickly faded. Yes. It's what you preach is what will go out there. And because people seem to listen to Jewel of Africa, it's what we preach.
Great. So you've been doing it... Absolutely, absolutely. You've been doing this maybe for a bit longer than others on the panel. So what lessons do you think you've learned that you can pass on to people who are just getting started with building a brand?
So we've made lots of mistakes along the way. You grow slowly, you make mistakes, you send consignments, you assume there's a lot of trust in this relationship, there's a lot of trust between the consumer and the merchant, and there's trust between workshop and owner. And that's where we made our mistakes. But we learned from them, and we ended up purchasing our own equipment to test the end product. Certification, education. We hire gemologists, we train jewelers to become the finest. If we are going to sell to the West and compete with the East, what's our unique selling point? It has to be a cut above the rest. So I say we sell for weight, for color, and sparkle. The Jardin does come with sparkle. So the cutting is essential because we have the minerals. How are we going to add value to those minerals is by creating total internal reflection. With that comes perfection in knowing the critical angles, specific gravities, refractive index, the science of the gemstone. And that's what we teach. And we train Zambian women in particular, and those of influence from the rural areas to say, go out there, you are influential, you've done everything in your life that you really wanted to do, and now can you help our cause in training more Zambians in your village areas about the value that they have under their ground.
Thank you, and it's great that you brought in the importance of working with women and training women. You know, women are the future for Africa. They're the breadwinners often, but they're the people who look after the children, and they're the best way that we can build African businesses. And Longa, if I can bring you into the conversation, we'll talk about Nsanchi Arts maybe a little bit later. But I first wanted to let you talk about JEGA and how you've been working so hard to provide that international exposure for African jewelers or jewelers of an African diaspora, all right? And you've scored some tremendous successes with relationships in Milano for the Fashion and Jewels exhibition, Gem Genève, which we spoke about, where one of the gentlemen from the workshop that Rashmi's been training in Jewel of Africa won an award. Also the Initiatives in Art and Culture conference led by Lisa Königsberg in New York. You've been bringing people there as well. Digital Jewelry Week, and next month you're going to New York Jewelry Week. You're a well-traveled individual.
Well, we're not going there physically.
Okay, that's cool.
Not physically, but we've done something.
But you're participating in it, which is great, which is bringing African jewelers to these international global stages. So that's just fantastic work you've been doing for all these years. What has been the reception to the audience when you bring this representation of African makers into these international gem and jewelry areas?
Thank you, Ed. So that's a loaded question, just because the answer is quite detailed. When we speak of audience, I would like to start here at CIBJO with yourself, Steve Benson, Dr. Cavalieri, and everyone who's been a part of this journey. So for Africans to tell a story on their terms, you need an audience, because we're obviously telling a story to share. So the initial audience started with yourselves, and obviously the reception was very welcoming. And through that, CIBJO, I'll call you CIBJO collectively, have enabled us to put ourselves in places that we might have taken longer to get to. We'll have gotten there in the end, but we've had that impetus and that gravitas, if you like, to be in these spaces. So taking African jewelers, for example, to Milano Fashion and Jewels. At the CIBJO Congress in India in 2023, I met a leading academic, an Italian lady called Dr. Alba Capelleri. And this is one example, so if I give you all the examples, we'll be here all day. And after I presented on a school in Zambia, which I'll talk about more later, called the Nsanchi Arts Initiative, Alba came to me and said she wanted us to participate as African jewelers in a fashion-forward Milano Fashion and Jewels Week, which celebrates the trends in the industry for the year. So some of our students, I don't know if you have any of the images.
See if I can get it up. Maybe if we can put the slides up and I'll move through and find the one you want.
Okay, so whilst we put them up, we participated, it was actually in a competition. So I think that was important because It wasn't a case of, you know, sort of what I call sympathy jewelry, where you might go on holiday in Africa and buy something that's not very well made because you want to support something or someone. We had to enter this as a competition, and they had different categories where people could express their heritage through jewelry. So that's not the one. If you could keep going.
Which one do you want?
Not that one. Not that one.
That's it.
Oh, that's... I was meant to have 4, but anyway, the reception at, say, Milano Fashion and Jewels, we submitted an entry by Amira Ayad's school, the Cairo Center for Contemporary Jewelry, which was an octopus piece, but it was very much a catwalk piece. And Sanchi Arts submitted their twist on the African waist bead. And what struck people initially was that they said, we can see this as African jewelry, but not as we imagined it. Because obviously people are used to wooden beads, horns, that's all part of our tradition. But what we're doing as a fresh association is presenting Africa in a new light rather than just African. We're expressing the voices and the creativity of the people behind it. Because I think creativity has no borders, it has no color, no nationality. You're just bound by your geography, but that isn't always who you are. You know, we're all individuals. So very briefly again, I would like to acknowledge when you say how the industry supported us. Through the international audience, we've got people like Melanie Grant, Sarah Yude, who have formed a part of our association from time to time and supporting us with our initiatives, more of which we'll discuss later. Lisa Cohensberg, I could name a lot of people, but yeah. So in summary, it's been positive. At Gem Genève, we had someone come to the stand and he said, where's the African jewelry? I want to see the African jewelry. He did find that in the rustic pieces of Insanchi art, but then again, that challenged me because it shouldn't be you coming to the artist, and I mean you as human beings. It should be the artist telling you who they are, and jewelry is very much an art. Thank you.
You know, yes, thank you, please. You know, we talk a lot about an industry about the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. SDG 17 is about partnerships for progress. This woman embodies it for me. She brings so many people into this association, and so many of you around the world give your time freely to help. So I want to applaud you for that, because it's, you know, you're living and breathing the SDGs, bringing people into partnerships and collaboration. Thank you for that. I'd also like briefly to hear, before we carry on, you know, you've brought these amazing jewelers. We met many of them in Genève. How have they reacted to that experience, being in Geneva, presenting their jewelry?
I think I'll start with the sad point, because in Sanchi Art, which is a school in the northwestern part of Zambia, Solwezi, they had planned to bring one of their outstanding students for the year, a lady called Afia Halwanga. Unfortunately, her passport was stolen, so she couldn't make it. But I was looking forward to that because it was her first time out of Zambia. And I'm the product of someone whose parents worked hard to send me to get an education in England. And I believe that shaped me more than if I had stayed locally, only because it broadened my horizons. And I'm a firm believer in once you see something, you do things a different way, you never go back. And in summary, I think that was the same for Vanasho Piri from Jewel of Africa. It was a new experience for even the team from Insanchi Art. Michelle, in her case, has never left Africa beyond going to India with the CIBJO Congress. So I think it opened their eyes, and most of all, it opened the audience's eyes. They've already been on the continent doing great work, as we've seen with Jewel of Africa and other initiatives, but then it was their time to shine. So it was an honor to put them in that space.
Thank you. I want to turn for a series of questions to everybody about value addition. Now, if you spend any time in Africa and if you're involved in mining, value addition always comes up at some stage. It means not just exporting the raw product and the money being made in supply chains outside the continent. It's about adding value in the country where the natural resource is extracted. And obviously, this is a highly political conversation. It's about geopolitics. We were discussing it yesterday. It's also critically about economics. Where in our globalized supply chains is it most economic to manufacture? All right? But obviously, there's a lot of psychological benefits for value addition. And Christophe, I wanted to ask you to expand on your thoughts about how do we actually move from just exporting the raw materials to exporting finished products?
Thank you. It's about 15 years I'm going in the continent, and this is 15 years I'm hearing this kind of issues, and not only in the mining industry or in the jewelry business, but from agriculture to oil and gas. It's how to transform a cashew nut into a hand product, how to transform crude oil into refinery gas. And this, they need to have funding, and funding not coming from abroad, but also locally. And a lot of institutions, and particularly a bank like Access Bank, who is one of the leading banks in Africa, I'm consulting for them. They are financing projects to help SMEs on a great global corporation to expand and invest into infrastructure. The example in oil and gas, we had Aliko Dangote, that you know, who is coming from the cement industry, and he has invested in a refinery. Instead of shipping the crude oil from Nigeria abroad, they are refining the crude oil and sending to the United States. It will take time. They are starting, they need finance, they need funding, but also there's a lot of challenges, regulatory and legal framework, tax, it's a lot of geopolitical issues, etc. But they are starting to do that, and with a great success. And we are talking about that to you and me, Ed, why we are not using raw stone and tie it in locally, but it's more expensive to do it locally than export it to India, because they have the knowledge and centuries of knowledge, and this is taking time. And we are coming back to education, and we need to education and educate local people to do the work.
Thank you. And I want to turn to you for roughly the same question, but I mean, I think, you know, this wonderful necklace that you're wearing, cut in Zambia?
Yes.
Zambian emeralds, cut in Zambia, the jewelry made in Zambia. That's living an embodied value addition. You're involved in mining. You're a neighbor to us at CIBJO, and you're retailing. So how do we move from just exporting the raw materials to creating the desire for the finished product within the countries that we're selling in Africa here?
Thanks for that. More on the necklace. I'll take. We'll have a start bidding, but it was created by the gems. The emeralds were cut by a lady who had been trained for 9 months. The Jewel of Africa supports 4 community schools around Lusaka. And we train local, again, women preferred, refugees, trained by a refugee girl, and the Zambian girl, hopefully she'll be at CIBJO next year, getting some sort of award for her cutting skills. She was in the video that we played, and she cut each and every one of these emeralds within 9 months. Now, with every politician that has walked through our doors and seen our workshops, they said, well, it takes decades. It takes generations to understand and learn how to cut gemstones. And she demonstrated that we could do it within less than a year, all right, with Sparkle. You distracted me by talking about my necklace. What was the question?
Well, your necklace distracted me. How do you see the value of value addition when selling in Zambia?
All right.
I can put it that way.
Yes. When we started very small. My brother taught Zambians how to cut, taught us how to cut and polish. We had one jeweler, one cutter, grew to six jewelers. We purchased the very first jewelry company, Klaus Reigard, a German-owned company. In 2007, inherited 40 jewelers who, in my opinion, needed to be retrained because our market was not Zambia. It was the US. And then we had the AGOA, which was the African Growth Opportunity Act. So we could sell to the US duty-free. We still can't sell to Europe or anywhere else at the moment because Zambia doesn't belong to the carnet. I'm working on that for the last 11 years, and only recently, 2 months ago, the Zambian parliament passed that through to say, let's go ahead and join the ATA carnet, and our application is sitting with World Customs Organization. If CIBJO has any push with that, please help Zambia, if I can speak for Zambia. Value addition, absolutely imperative, because we have the gemstones. Right? At the moment, we have very small-scale value adders, people making chandeliers, little candle holders. They don't have access to the lowest grade gemstones, not even amethyst, because it is being container loaded out of the country. All right? But we don't have a policy framework. We don't have regulations that can actually stop that from happening. And they go directly to the east, where most of the value addition happens. And I say we create millions of jobs outside of Zambia. And that should change. The narrative needs to change. Over the last 30 years, we've trained hundreds of jewelers and cutters, and we've empowered them so much that they can leave me and go and start their own businesses trying to cut and polish and manufacture. Little cottage industries are created in every province. What we lack, supporting industry. Even the saw blade has to be imported. The casting equipment, the computer-aided equipment. But we carry on reinvesting in Jewel of Africa. All the machinery that comes through, it's either my birthday gift or my brother's birthday gift, because that's how we've rolled our entire lives. We've been very complementary. He's the mining engineer. I'm the gemologist, the designer. He's the finance. I'm the marketing. And so we work very complementary, not always see eye to eye, but that's how it's happened over the last 30 years. And we seem to have grown, even though we're very small and thin between Raj and I. We have a vision, all right? We're mining in 7 different mining areas. There's gemstones, there's tourmaline, all the way from the center of the country into Malawi. We have about 35, I've counted 35 different colors of tourmaline. Double blue aquamarine, triple blue aquamarine, citrines, the royal purple amethyst, which you heat and you get the royal, the honey-colored citrines. And it's not enough that we sell them in the rough or take them out, because the foreigners are mining. All right, more Zambians need to engage in mining, in value addition locally. We have gold. We have a lot of gold being discovered at the moment. So we're mining gold. Yeah, great. Well, so there's some challenges there for you in doing it. I mean, I want to turn to Malefi, because of course in South Africa there's been a lot of strides taken forward with beneficiation, if we bring in that word, obviously in the diamond business, and a lot of work has been done since the end of apartheid to empower Black employment, all right, in critical industries. And you know, there's been a lot of development of local polishing factories. As I said earlier, you're the first Black-owned site holder for De Beers, which was a major step. So a lot of work has been done, a lot of initiatives. What do you think is missing from your perspective on value addition in South Africa?
Look, when you look at it, you know, a lot of investment has been made in terms of ensuring that we do local beneficiation. However, I think if there's one of the key things that are missing, it's the actual market for that, all the work that has been put in, and by market, I mean both locally and internationally. Internationally, in terms of being able to penetrate that market, and locally in terms of, growing the market for the desire to actually own any form of jewelry and so forth. So I think that's one of the key critical things that I'm seeing that led. I think when you look at Africa in most cases, and I'm saying especially from a diamond perspective point of view, we've always concentrated a lot on developing products to export, as opposed to those products actually being used by local consumers as well. We sit on the base that we have minerals. And look, we've had some presidents even say it, where we have this mineral, we should be in control. But truth is, in as much as you can have the mineral itself, if you don't have a buyer for that mineral, it's worth nothing. So I think critically, it's important for not just to concentrate on developing the skill to do, which is good and creates jobs and so forth, but also create our own local market that will buy and that international market. And also maybe just to add on that, I see how brands actually do quite a lot better locally than non-branded items. And I think, that's one of the things that, consumers are looking for more, because they know with brands, there's more responsibilities that have been followed, unlike with a lot of loose diamonds per se that are not branded. And Africa has not invested much in actually building African brands on their own, but concentrating just on, selling that product.
Great. Well, that's great that you brought in the brands and the branding, because we've got an emerging young luxury jewelry brand sitting right here with Jumoke Lagos. So, for you, do you, and I feel you're really in touch with the consumer in Lagos and Abuja where you live. Do you think it's really appealing to that market to have Nigerian mined, Nigerian created, Nigerian made jewelry? Or do they prefer a Western brand?
Okay, a few years ago, maybe about 10 years ago, I would have said yes, they prefer the Western brand. But the narrative is rapidly changing, and rapidly being the active word here. Just with other things, once upon a time, we wanted non-African music. Then we broke through with our music, and everywhere you go to now, you go to the clubs in Europe, you go to the street in Australia, and it's Nigerian music. Somebody's woke up and broke through with music. The same thing with fashion. I come to Europe now, I go back home not with clothes, maybe toiletries and every other thing, because I'm comfortable with my African designer, right? The same thing with tech. So there are many industries that Africans are rising to say, I want to tell our story. I want to write it our way. We want to do it our way. We thank you to every other part of the world, but it's time for us to emerge. And that is rapidly happening as well with jewelry. All of a sudden, it's okay to be a Nigerian brand as a jewelry brand, and a fine jewelry one as well. We're not as large as every other well-established jewelry houses that have been existing for 100 years. But for us, for example, Jumoke Lagos, our plan is to tell a full African story with the brand. So gold from Africa, gold from Osun State in Nigeria, stones from Zambia, everything put together in a studio house in Nigeria. It would be nice to tell that full African story. And as he rightly said, we have a large market in Africa. Even if we don't look to the West for patronage, we have a huge market in Africa that if we add value to our stones and we encourage the Africa designers, the African jewelers, they can be the ones to make use of the stones that we add value to. So it is coming, and it's coming real fast. The African story is going to be told by Africans. It was interesting because when she came back from Chinchina, she was saying to me about the African jewelry. They're looking for the African jewelry. What used to be the stereotype concerning African jewelry is changing. So it is no longer the predicted ones of you having elephants and the African map as jewelry now. But we're telling stories. For example, I tell stories. Every of my collection is telling a story of love, hope, and humanity. A story that somebody in Australia can relate to, because everybody needs love. A story where someone in Canada can relate to. A story of resilience. Everybody needs it. So we are telling African stories, relatable African stories, with the metal that we'll be blessed with.
I just love what you're saying, and I see that Malefi, you're nodding, so I guess you're agreeing. I mean, what's your perspective on what Jumoko is saying? Different part of the continent, different types of consumer, but you're nodding. What's your thoughts?
No, look, I am agreeing with the statement, that the market is huge here. We just haven't been working on tapping it more. But that African story has become such a critical thing where people want to buy, more responsibly. And that's why today you get consumers that actually ask you where your diamonds are coming from, because they want to know more in terms of what difference are they making, especially now that we've been talking about diamonds making a difference. The consumer wants to know what's the difference. And based on that, they know that whatever they buy, it's adding value to the communities at large. And it's not just about profiting.
And you brought in a really important word, buying responsibly. And obviously, from our perspective in Zambia, where we see the light in mining, I'd like to think that Kajem is an example of a responsible miner, and yourself as well. What's your reaction to that about buying responsibly?
I wanted to talk about before,
okay.
the cultural heritage aspect of it, and that we do have a slide.
Let me.
So every couple of years, Jewel of Africa advertises a competition throughout the country.
This one? This one?
No, that's Zambia.
Which slide?
There's a heritage collection. Keep going. Keep going. All right, never mind. There's my jeweler at CIBJO.
I think that's it.
All right, leave it. So I work with some historians. Yes. We work with some historians whose parents were one of the freedom fighters, who could have been one of the presidents, the founding fathers of the country. And she is very versant with Zambian culture. So we collect the stories and we see how we can convert them into designs. Designs that will not just sell in Africa. If they sell in China and India, they will definitely become a hit in the West. We create local folklore into designs like the friction drum. The friction drum is just a drum with a stick that they rub on the inside of a hole, and it makes a frictional noise. Which is sound.
It's a great sound, isn't it?
Yes.
It's a great sound.
And so how do we convert that into a piece of jewelry? Is take two little gemstones, put a Zambian motif on it, and the stick is the toggle, which is the lock. It became a hit, sold hundreds in its first show in the US and in the East. So Zambian jewelry and African jewelry, just as a reminder, because we like to create large, chunky African pieces, they have to be reproducible, affordable, and adorable to be sold in the East. And that's where 2 billion plus people are. And if they like it, the world will take it. And so this is what I keep promoting. Every time I get a new script on, can you create a piece of jewelry on this story, I have it first verified by the historians to say, is this true? And based on that, if it's true and we create a hit, that's when the world starts asking, where was this made? Who made it? What's the story behind it? And I do think that's the way to go with African jewelry, just so that we can have a foot in the door with the rest of the world that is a fast competing environment in jewelry. We're competing with a 1,000-year-old industry. How are you going to make a difference and an impact? All right, that's what I wanted to add.
Yeah, you're competing against a 1,000-year-old industry, but the first known examples of jewelry were found in the African continent, in Morocco. So Africans were making jewelry long before any Europeans started doing it. Let's recognize that. Right? 150,000 years old, is it? Where's the jewelry historian in the room, Rui? I think they found examples of beads in Morocco from 150,000 years ago. listen, I love all this positive energy, and I hope you're feeling it as well out there. But there are challenges. You mentioned resilience, all right? And Africans have to be a resilient population. There are many challenges: corruption, poverty, conflict. That's what we're not talking about today. But let's be realistic. There are some challenges that need to be overcome. So, Christophe, your work is about linking the ambitions the Africa retail jewelry sector has with its own cultural and marketing transformations. And, you're part of luxury brands which are exploring Africa, but you feel few really take the time to truly belong in Africa. So what do African jewelry business need to do to enable growth?
And I think if we are back to the subject, is there a market in Africa for
Western brands?
Western brands.
Thank you. That's a better question.
For local brands, yes, of course, there is a market, and the next step is to sell outside the countries. But how international brands must invest in the country, and as you were mentioning, I'm collaborating with a Swiss watch brand. They were interesting. Following a discussion, the owner of two Swiss brands is an old friend, and we're talking about Africa, and he was asking me what are the opportunities in Nigeria particularly, and how we can replicate to create a shop in Lagos or to attract people, etc. And I said, no, this is not the model, because as you are saying, you are very proud of your heritage, and you cannot invest in a country in the same way you would do it in Europe, in America, or in the East. It's totally different. You need to understand the spirit of the people. You need to understand the market, and you are not address yourself to an algorithm. You are address yourself to people, and the people they want to change from head to aspiration. What are their aspirations? What they are looking for? And this is the reason why I was writing an article about co-creating. And what one industry will understand that, start to understand that, is the fashion industry. They have started co-creation with African designer, with international brands, and it was a success. It was a success, not only in Africa, but also internationally, because the creativity coming from Africa is also celebrating around the world.
I want to thank you. And I love the way. I do want to encourage again people to look at Christophe's writing on LinkedIn. I mean, it's very potent for me. What you're talking about is that co-branding work that we need to do. And then when we look longer at what you're doing with CIBJO, you're co-branding because you're bringing African jewelers, and you're running these competitions. Maybe I can get the slides up again so we can get the graphic for the next jewelry design competition that you just launched last week.
On Friday.
On Friday last week. So maybe when we got the slides up, I'll put it up. But you've run a number of design competitions. The first one last year was on It's All in Our Hands. This new one is the Design Dynamic on Screen. Why do you think more competitions like this are needed? And what's going to be the benefit to African jewelers? And I notice you're now really calling for jewelers from the African diaspora, the Afro-Caribbean communities in North America, the African-American, Afro-Caribbean and African-British communities. What's going to be the benefit for them of these jewelry design competitions that you're putting on?
Okay, so the first one, It's All in Our Hands. We've got, I don't want to say a byproduct because that's not the right word, but we've got one of our winners here, and that's how I met Olu Jumoke. And I think in our latest competition, the Design Dynamic, Jumoke has come back as a judge. And I think that's testament to the fact that if we want to understand the African industry, I might be Zambian, but I'm somewhere in North London, I'm not on the ground. We need to cast the net wide and hear from Africans themselves to tell us what they're doing. And I think the open call brings talent, because I believe Africans are already doing all of this on the ground. We've got, master setters, enamelists, we've got the works, but then they don't have the marketing and the exposure. So competitions do that. It's all in our hands. Also took accountability. The global industry, the likes of CIBJO, the likes of all of you are listening to the plight of Africans. It's no longer it's no longer the dynamics of we can't do anything for ourselves. It's now all in our hands to shape the industry we want. Design Dynamic is based on our vision statement, which is in a nutshell, is to see a dynamic African jewelry gemstone industry. And you're aware of that because you helped us shape the vision statement. Design Dynamic is different because it's brought the whole industry together. It's brought everyone of African descent, because not to dwell on the negative today, as Ed said, people of African descent have often faced challenges, including how they had to leave the continent in the first instance. What they took with them was their DNA and their culture, which still comes back to Africa. And I also think, because I've had people say, well, can I be part of this association because I'm Chinese, I'm Caucasian? And I've said, well, if you're African, you're African. We come in all colors. And that is the Design Dynamic. The image on the screen is very fitting because it's by two sisters who have lended their expertise to our competition as judges and tutors, the Karpov sisters, Helen and Jean. And they are one of the industry's leading gouaches. We also have Stasia Parker, who's also a gouache in the same category. And we're honored to have Francesca Grima, who comes from the legacy family of Andrew Grima. So I think when you work as an industry without boundaries, as I keep saying, you bring the best of the best towards building a different Africa. So.
Thanks. And those award winners will be on display at Gem Genève in May next year? Am I right?
No, because production won't be that quick. So what you will see at Gem Genève next year, I've roped in Melanie as to support in designing the exhibition space, because we've been invited back to Gem Genève.
Great.
So a very big thank you to the Toters and the Fabers.
Yeah.
So when I say everyone's supporting us, I really do mean that. So the design phase is solely until March. The deadline is the 1st of March 2026. And then from then on, we have the manufacturing and production phase for exhibition in 2027 as an event that we'll announce shortly. The benefit of that is we want to involve the designers in the manufacturing phase rather than take the designs from them, and then manufacture without their input. So we want the whole process to be educational for the winners. So.
Great. Well, we look forward to seeing that. And please, everybody, visit Jegaz's booth at Gem Genève next year. You had something.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to this Gem Genève. I think I approached you with the subject earlier before I sent before Jewel of Africa sent Vinasha, was what are you doing about getting to the product of the jewelry? I mean, you're using gemstones. Where are the gemstones created or purchased from, or the beads that are being used in the jewelry that is displayed or sent for judging?
That's a very good question. So when you do visit our application form or website, you'll notice we haven't mentioned our sponsors. Under the guidance of the likes of Sarah Yude, it's particularly John Mulligan, who make up our ethics committee, we're keeping the sort of like, what do you call it? Like, is it Chinese walls or just divisions between, yes, Chinese walls between the entrance, so it will be anonymous judging. The judges won't know who they're judging. The sponsors are the sponsors of the materials, so even that won't be available until later on, just because, but I can't say this, but I might reach out to you, but, so thank you for that.
I'd like to see more cutting and polishing in these competitions. Africa needs to start cutting and polishing. And in Zambia, there are many of those.
Yeah.
Where, there's a whole school in the Copper Belt.
Yeah.
That was a government initiative.
Yep.
And
GPLTC.
That's right. Yes, so
They
there's a
need new
lapidary.
name. They need a new name. Gemstone Processing and Lapidary Training Center. They
Yes.
need a new name.
And we hire from some of them and we retrain them.
Yeah. It's great to, again, we're getting back to positive energy. I did want to address quickly before we finish up with some questions about the challenges. And Malefi, we were talking earlier that, there are still some challenges in South Africa for local beneficiators. So what do you think are the opportunities for international jewelers that want to enter the African market?
Look, Ed, I think, looking into South Africa, for example, one of the key challenges, it's actually finance, where you find that the local banks and developmental funding agencies are not really funding the industry. And I think this creates a good opportunity for international players who want to work with Africa to collaborate together. And in so doing, bringing the African element in terms of the product, understanding the culture, like Christopher was saying, it's not just one market, but it's a huge market with different sort of needs. So working with locals gives you that, you get to understand what the local needs are. So I think, it creates a great opportunity for collaboration for both international players to be able to play in the African sphere in terms of market, and also take that African product into the international market, while also ensuring that that product is sold in the local market as well.
Okay, thank you. We've talked about the challenge of finance as well, and Africa is so often seen as a destination of aid. But how do you see the need for finance for jewelry creators in Zambia and Africa generally?
So this year in 2025, we met Farrell in Doha, and we spoke about this. And my response to that question was, local financing is very, very expensive. So you can have the gemstones, but they're not used as assets or collateral. You cannot use your gemstone and borrow money. Well, you can, but it's extremely, extremely expensive. It's more than double, 35% interest rate. It's crazy. Formidable almost. But since January till today, we have managed or lobbied for government intervention, and they have created a small, medium enterprise ministry where they give loans, small loans, $5,000, $100,000, that will encourage small-scale miners to start production, beading, anything that will take them a step further to export. And so financing in its early days in Zambia, definitely. We found it a very big challenge as Jewel of Africa to get any financing for our mining projects. Financing copper mines is far easier than it is to finance gemstones because of the way that they are found, percentage versus veins. And as Jewel of Africa, we've grown organically. And we've just said we can do this ourselves because we've tried so hard. Since COVID, pre-COVID, we had a few promises of people coming in to join us, didn't work out, COVID hit, and then we carried on doing this ourselves. But financing is a very, very big topic in Zambia, right? And policy, framework, regulations, financing. And when you say Access Bank, is a lender, but at what cost, right? And so recently, when I say last week, I had the State House ladies, this is the government house, say we've got 35 women who've put together $5,000. Will you mentor us on how to grow this industry with $5,000 and 35 partners? I said, of course, any penny to help get attention for this industry, I am there to help, to mentor.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
Could I add to that? So Jewel of Africa is obviously one of the biggest brands. I know that as a Zambian and as someone in the industry. I also know of people that have come through Jewel of Africa to set up their own brands. In particular, I know we are short on time. Yes. Do you have an image of Bianca's work?
Yeah.
So when I did tell Bianca will be on this panel, her growth and who she is as a goldsmith is down to the world-class training she received at Jewel of Africa. However, she did highlight the challenges she's faced as an independent jeweler. That's her piece, yes. So it's, you know, the fluctuating cost of materials, especially gold, a lack of craft and labor skills for her to scale up, even though she's very busy. How, as one of the leading brands, do you think you can sort of start a feeder initiative to support, say, the likes of Bianca and the smaller brands to establish themselves in the industry?
So Jewel of Africa Foundation is there. It's been set up. We're just waiting for some grants to come through, because as Jewel of Africa's CSR section, we're overloaded with the kind of beneficiation, skill building work that we have done over the past 30 years. So hence the foundation has been set up in the hope to train jewelers who have been with Jewel of Africa previously to come back and train them further for international or finished excellence, finesse in what they do. The price of gold right now is prohibitive. And unfortunately, you know, well, fortunately, Zambia has a lot of gold, but unfortunately, very few of them can afford it. So do we need to be selling local gold at LME prices, which is what's happening currently? Or can we give Zambians some incentive and say, because you are value adding and you're beneficiating, maybe the gold prices can be tax-free for Zambian beneficiators? You know, these are things that we're looking at and lobbying for. So as the industry develops, we're trying our best to find ways and initiatives to improve skills. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
Yes, it does.
I like it when I don't have to do my job and somebody else asks the questions.
Have
It's
a
great.
chit-chat.
It's good. So listen, forgive me if you feel we're talking for a long time, but we were given an hour and a half. And considering this conversation hasn't really taken place in 100 years in CIBJO, I'm very grateful for the hour and a half, but it's a good start. And I've still got 2 minutes on the clock. So, but please, if you have any questions, there's time at the end and when we've finished for any questions from you. So please be prepared for that in a couple of minutes. But I wanted to finish off this conversation with maybe if we can do relatively quick fire answers here to this question, where imagine we were to regroup in 10 years' time.
In Zambia.
So on African soil for a CIBJO Congress, okay? Hopefully in Zambia, at the beautiful Victoria Falls or Musiatunya, all right? Imagine that the African jewelry industry has seen miraculous growth. Where is your business now? And how would you define the past 10 years of growth? Maybe I'm just going to start at this end and then come down and finish with my Lefi.
I would avoid using miraculous, because in 10 years, in 15 years, there will be a market and there will be a growth. And it won't be miraculous. It will be because of those people, the energy, the creativity of those people. And I'm not questioning myself where they will be. They will be selling products to a local market, a developed local market, and to an international market.
Okay, great, thank you. Longer.
Thank you. I second that. In a simple word, just because there's a lot to say, I'll say dynamic. But I'll also say I would like to acknowledge Emile Elasha. He comes from Congo and he's based in Belgium. And what he does is basically support his diamond village by providing salaries and supporting over 300 people. I think in future that should not be down to one person, such as Emile, as honorable as it is. So I just wanted to acknowledge him because he's here as well. So.
Thank you very much. Emile is from the DRC and is with us, if anybody wants to. Emile, thank you. Turning to you, Jumoke, your crystal ball, if we can.
In 10 years. So in 10 years, a well-established brand, obviously, with other African brands as well, selling to international markets, local markets, but most importantly, we'll well-establish goldsmith schools, lapidaries, where we're churning out world-class goldsmith, stone cutters, and stone setters.
Great. Nice vision. Thank you.
10 years? Right now, what's the price of a rough emerald, the best quality right now, sold at $40,000 a gram In 10 years' time, maybe it will be $400 or $4 million a gram. That's where I see Zambia and emerald in the next 10 years. Apart from that, with the whole education and the curriculum going through, we'll have far more educated, aware Zambians of what they have under their feet, and creative, as well as competition. It's healthy. You know, let the international brands come in and let's compete with them on a local stage. There's, 10 years from now, I'll still be teaching, hopefully, and running Jewel of Africa, but hopefully our children will also join in and take it at a different level. They should have different challenges from what we have. All right? We need to set the stage for them so they can grow on whatever platform we create.
Nice vision. Molefi, turning to you for the last word on this. Your vision for where you see your business and South African diamond trade in 10 years' time.
And look, if you asked a lot of diamond dealers today if they would want their children to get into the diamond industry, a lot of them say no, But my hope is that, in the next 10 years, we could see growth in terms of that change of narrative where, we see more beneficiation taking place. And touching with Africa, seeing also government really working on the red tapes, because I think there's times when a lot of international players that have wanted to come into Africa walked away due to a lot of red tapes that, are set ahead, which could cause it to be discouraging. But where do I see it? I see more and more diamonds being beneficiated locally, more jewelry designs coming from locally and being consumed not just locally, but internationally as well, with high numbers locally of more people actually wearing the pride of the jewelry that comes from Africa.
Great. Thank you so much. Now, we do have a special guest that we'd like to announce at the end, but we have a few minutes for some questions if anybody in the audience has any questions for the panelist. I see a lot. I saw Stefan's hand first.
Thank you. I'm the chair of the CIBJO Technology Committee, and I invite you to stay with us this afternoon. We'll have our session on AI. About AI, I wanted to ask you, have you inputted AI in your own processes, and what is your experience?
Who are you asking? All right. So we use AI for our as a marketing tool every single day. The unfortunate part is AI, or the meta phase or the meta space, has very little local African information in there. It's what we put into the AI meta phase, metaverse. Is that the right word? Yes, metaverse. And so if I ask AI a question at ChatGPT, if it gives me back something, I'll be like, no, I can do better than this because I know what's on the ground. And so it's what we feed AI that it'll feed you back with. And so we need more Africans to be putting into Metaphase's database on how to give feedback.
That was really a loaded question. I wanted to thank you for your answer because, yes, the data sets are Western or Eastern. There's very little African content. So it's up to you probably to create this African AI.
Okay, so I work with a very young team. So my team is all Gen Zs, and we are the very AI forward. I was resisting it initially, but I've given in now. And I was just thinking, why don't you use your mind? But that's what it is now. But we use it a lot for marketing, and we're currently in the process of really training it. As you rightly said, the content, what the data set it has is very Western, but there's a deliberateness by my team to ensure that the marketing content that we're churning out of AI speaks to the narrative of what we are all about. So there's a lot of training going on now. We're committed to that, and AI is the way forward. We have no choice.
Thank you. Ferial.
Sorry, can I just add to that? It's an interesting question because AI is the future. I think I can speak for everyone on this panel. We're probably not of that generation. For our competition, we have 3 categories: hand-rendered, computer-assisted design, gouache, but anyone that uses AI is expelled. Because again, it's a battle of, do we embrace AI or do we embrace what we feel is the natural creative spirit? So I look forward to your panel discussion.
And also because Africans, and we were talking about that at the beginning, they are very digital native. They are very open to that, and you can go to Lagos, to Abuja, any city in Africa, and they are using a device. Even if they are in the street, they have a device and they have access to internet. So they are very open to this. Yeah.
Ariel.
Thank you. Question from me, Fariel. I love this panel, and I agree. We've waited far too long for it. We need more of this. I think I have controversial views around beneficiation because I think all of this will happen if there is a market for it, right? So if I always talk about being very open and honest about commercial sustainability as well. So if I was a business owner, I would cut my product where it's more economically advantageous for me to cut my product, right? I'd be making margins, etc. However, as an African, I have this belief that, yes, we need to bring more of the value chain in and create jobs internally as well. So there's this balance that I struggle with. So for me, the market, and I think it was mentioned by Molefi, creating the market is the most important thing. So if we create demand in the US, for example, and locally in African countries, then we will have the right price for the rough, whatever the product is. We will have the opportunity to cut and polish in areas where it's more economically efficient, let's say, and we will have the opportunity to create beneficiation in the countries where we come from and where the product comes from. So my ask is we need more of this, and we need the younger generations. So on social media, when anyone is talking negatively about your country or about our continent, we need to answer. We need to answer. We cannot expect the brands to answer. We need to stand up for what our countries represent and what our continent represents.
Yeah. Thank you. Roberta, I know you had your hand up, but do you mind if I go to Joe as an African wanting to ask a question first, and then I'll come to you, Roberta?
Hi, thanks. I hope you can all hear me. I really wanted to say, well, I'm here because of Longo's association. Okay. I think she's an incredible human being, and it's lovely to see a very diverse platform today and hear all your stories. I am an African. I live in London, and I just wanted to say we tend to speak of Africa as one whole country almost, and it's a continent.
Yeah, I think we acknowledged that at the beginning.
Yeah, but
it's important to stress it.
Very important.
Thank you.
Because there are different barriers to entry for each country, locally, looking at local markets, looking at international markets. And I just worry that you've got very strong, dynamic people on the panel, great stories, great products, but it might actually be a different narrative from different countries. That's all I wanted to add.
Thank you so much for bringing that in. Now, I know there were a few other questions, but the boss has said we need to wrap up because we've got a special guest in the audience who I believe you wanted to introduce. So, Gaetano, if I can ask you to join us.
Thank you very much. I enjoy this panel, and I felt compelled due to the fact that we have a very special guest in the audience to call on stage Dr. Anino Emua. She is chair and board of director and founder of the 100 Women Davos, luxury and impact advisor, expert in inclusive leadership, ESG, and ethical IE, and global speaker. Anino, please, do you mind to come? I will. Anino, you leave the chair. Anino, you leave the chair. I'll leave the chair. Well, women first.
Okay, are we moving?
Oh, so they brought an extra chair. We're good.
Stand.
You're happy to stand?
I'm happy to stand.
Okay, all right, very good. Thank you. Anino, the stage is yours. So you are a public speaker, so I don't need to make any question. Your comments and whatever you want to say, please, the floor is yours.
First of all, Dr. Gaetano, thank you very much. Also, Bernadette, thank you. It's really a pleasure and an honor to be here today. Normally, when I speak, I tend to have at least a topic to speak about, Gaetano. As a board member of the Watch and Jewellery Initiative, I am an independent and I come from outside the industry. It's been an interesting journey of the last 2 years. And I would also like to acknowledge our co-chairs, our visionary co-chairs, Cyril Vieron, the chair of Cartier Culture and Philanthropy, and Marie-Claire Davot, the CSO of Caring, and of course our executive director here, Iris. This panel is a special panel. Dr. Gaetano, when I accepted your invitation, of course I had no idea of what the agenda was. And when I looked at it a few days ago, and I thought, oh my goodness, I have to be here for this panel, and I wasn't disappointed. And thank you very much for bringing Africa to the discussion. Now, my work is really focused on inclusive leadership, and that is global. And it's not simply an issue of rights. It is because with more inclusive leadership, with more women in leadership, women working side by side with men in leadership, we do see an increase in performance, economic performance, performance of organizations, more sustainability initiatives, and more peace and longer-lasting peace initiatives. However, it's difficult, and it's been difficult, even though there has been progress. And I think in this industry, inclusion of women is particularly special, and that's because jewelry has tended to be something that has been worn by women. Watches, I know in the industry, watches tends to be very often more skewed towards men, but when we talk about jewelry, it tends to be more for women through history. Yet, we find that when we look at the leadership, we don't see very many women at the top of the industry. And we are in a time of increased complexity. We've heard of so many of the issues earlier yesterday at the beginning, and it's not just in the industry, but globally in everything. And this is a time in our world where we need to have all the best talent on board. And that means having women in leadership. And when we look and we do see the underrepresentation, it's not simply a figure or a number. What it tells us, it is evidence that perhaps we're not getting the best leadership that we need. And just to be clear, I'm not saying that the fact that you have women means that you have the best leaders, right? There are many examples, right? So we need women that are inclusive. And to say to you in this room as leaders, the issue to do with inclusion is not simply just in your roles. Are you in, if you're CEO, chairs, board nominations, etc. But it's also in terms of how we act every day. Because inclusiveness is about behaviors. And if we're looking at dealing with those problems, the economic crisis is there. The youth generation, we've talked about Generation X. We've talked about changing consumer preferences. We've talked about sustainability, talked about so many of these things. And we can go a long way if we make sure that we have more inclusive representation, and particularly in this industry as well, when we look down the supply chain as well. So just a word to all of you just to say, It's been wonderful here over the last 2 days, one more day here. And just to think about this in your day-to-day, what are we doing to ensure the inclusive representation in women at all levels, within our organizations and in the industry when we look at the supply chains? Dr. Gaetano, thank you very much for giving me this few minutes, and thank you to everybody, and do enjoy the rest of this conference.
Thank you so much for that message. Thank you so much. Now, I realize that I'm now the only person in between you and lunch, so...
Only 1 second.
How can I say no to you, Roberto?
I would like to tell this young lady that our company is 75% women. My company is 75% women. She's not listening.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So I am the only person between...
However, I would like to give some thought.
Okay.
I don't know Africa very well, but I know Nigeria very well. As you know, you've been importing jewelry from Italy, tons of jewelry. Somebody has a lot of money to import tons of jewelry from Italy and now from Dubai. Okay? So you're absolutely right. Fashion is changing. But also the buyers, which are buying in Dubai and in Italy, they are buying items which the mother had and they don't want. You're up in the right track. It is difficult at the beginning, but the future is Africa. Yes. We all believe that the future is Africa. Even our government believes in Africa. We still sell in Nigeria. We used to sell 600 kilos a year in the olden days. We sell much less, but now we are selling as a brand. You know, and I can assure you, what in the past, they like gold, and by the way, by mistake, a little bit of diamonds. Now it's changing.
Yes, it's changing.
Yeah, now it's changing. So the future is yours. And if you're good, and if you, there is always money for good ideas. It's never been short of money, though, in this world. When you're good, you have a good concept and good ideas.
Thank you so much for that, Roberto. Thank you very much.
The future is yours.
Thank you, Roberto.
Thank you.
That means a lot.
We really are all that's between you and lunch. So I know some people wanted questions, but we do have to cap it now. It's 18 minutes over. I will be in enormous trouble. Thank you. Enjoy your lunch. Thank you, Christophe. Thank you, Longo. Thank you, Jamoke. Thank you, Rashmi. Thank you, Malefi online as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Truly appreciate it. Thank you.
We need a selfie. You